Greetings and welcome to the first showing of a nostalgic podcast, coming from Jackson, Michigan at Nostalgia Inc. This will be our first attempt at a podcast with Mr. Eric Smith.
What up?
Mr. Tim Stairs.
Hello.
And myself, Trevor Monahan. This is our first attempt, so be kind to us in the comments section as we move forward and discuss the week's news, comics that interest us in our particular, and talk about the things you may not be reading yet and really should. All right, so moving forward with this podcast, we are going to intend to talk about what's upcoming, and we're going to also try to present this in a format that is both informative and fun, but also keeps cynicism to a minimum. It's impossible to keep it, fully non-existent in a world of new 52s and one more days, but we will try to be as positive as we can with the industry we love. So, with that, we will introduce ourselves a little more in depth.
I'm Eric, and I wanted to second what he said. There's a lot of cynicism on the internet, so you're welcome to get it somewhere else. But we are really passionate about these things, and we love them. So we're going to talk about the best parts of it, the things that we're happy to talk about. And yeah, we'll have some constructive criticism maybe, but no snark, no cynicism. I love comics and I want to talk about them. And not just comics, everything that goes on here at the comic book store.
And I am Tim Stairs. I also third what these guys say, and I believe that it's important, especially when we have a growing industry. It seems that viewership or readership is increasing exponentially all the time. Every month they're reporting new record sales on some title or another. So I would say it's important that someone is trying to get the word out there in a way that doesn't come off as snarky and critical all the time. It just seems to be very consistent across the board.
Yeah.
There's just there's so many people out there that self-proclaim themselves as critics. I think it may just it's a turn-off, I think, to new readers or potential readers.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about the worst parts. I want more people coming in the comic book store, so
right.
My comic book store can be open for my kids and their kids.
That's right.
All right, so let's talk about a little bit who we are. So anyone who's blessed us with their listening will know who we are. I am Trevor Monahan. I read a lot of independent comic books, such as Atomic Robo and Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, which are topics, if not today, then in a very soon upcoming podcast we'll talk about a bit more in depth. I've been reading since about 1992, and I also build a whole lot of Gunpla.
You have claws on your thing.
And I have claws on my hoodie. And today I am drinking a Bell's Bringer of Peace, an apricot craft beer.
Made in Michigan.
Made in Michigan.
I'm a big fan of Michigan, just in general, not the school. Just I like the state. And I'm a Renaissance nerd, I guess. I like everything: magic, Dungeons and Dragons, comics, video games. Like you name it, I'm probably kind of obsessed with it. So. I'd say that's all you need to know. And I'm drinking Bud Light because I'm cheap and I just wanted to get a buzz.
Yes, I am also drinking Bud Light. Thank you. Thanks to Eric. I appreciate that.
Hey, happy to help.
Wasn't thinking beer when I, came here, but
It gets you chatty.
Sure. Been reading comics off and on since I was a kid. My uncle had a pretty sizable collection of Hulk and Thor and Green Lantern stuff that I like to read. Thought I grew out of it. Guess I didn't. Still love comics. One of those things that I think you realize when you get into your 30s that you're not going to kick. It's always going to be there for you.
Yep. It's probably worth noting that you own and operate a comic book store.
Yes, there is that.
Tell us about your comic book store, Tim.
Well, it's been around since 1984. The previous owner retired a year and a half ago, and I was lucky enough to take it over.
All right, so first off, we're going to talk about the week's news. First item, and we're going to try to do this in a rapid-fire succession, is Magic Origins, which was just announced about an hour prior to this podcast.
Yeah, it's as far as I can tell, it's going to be the summer set, and it's going to deal with the origins of like the major planeswalkers that are going to be big in the next set after Tarkir.
Tarkir's over. Tarkir.
So I guess we can only speculate. I keep my fingers crossed that we're going to go back to Kamigawa, but I don't know. I don't see that happening.
What do you think about the 2-set blocks that they're switching to, doing away with the core sets?
Initially I was kind of iffy about that, but then they on their website they talked about how it was just a way to get through the sets faster almost.
Sure.
Because there's like a line of people going like, when's this? Like me, I'm going, where's Kamigawa? And they're like, well, we got to do this set and this set and this set. And now they can just bang, 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 rapid fire, pop them out.
One of the things I've heard from veteran Magic players that they don't like about core sets is the reprints.
Yeah.
You can count on all, a whole set full of mostly reprints with very few exclusive. It's actually just enough of exclusive cards from a core set to annoy those veteran players because they might be a completist and want every card out there.
Right.
And now they've got to buy a whole set of reprints to get it. Origin, I'm assuming, will be another one of those special sets that is like a non-modern format.
Right. Well, maybe we'll get Dark Ritual back, and I'll be okay with that.
All right, next topic we're going to talk about is A-Force, the all-lady Avengers team, which was just announced this week. I find myself thoroughly looking forward to it, as long as it includes She-Hulk and Captain Marvel, but I mean Monica Rambeau, if that's the correct pronunciation, because I haven't seen enough of her since Agents of Hate. And it's all leading into Secret Wars, which she was a major player in the original Secret Wars, so I am completely down with a organic Avengers team that includes more women. That doesn't, as long as it doesn't feel tacked on, which this in no way feels tacked on.
Did they say who was writing that?
I don't believe they've announced that yet, because premise sometimes seems to get more attention than who's actually writing it.
It'll probably be the lady who writes Miss Marvel.
I'm okay with that.
I know she just signed a huge deal with Marvel, so she's...
Speaking of Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel, she has actually been the leader of the Avengers at one point, wasn't she?
Oh yeah, Mighty Avengers is when she took the reins.
So she would be an appropriate leader for that group. Although that doesn't seem like that's a plan they are toting around right now.
Yeah, they did put She-Hulk front and center of the promo image, which who drew Young Avengers originally?
Oh, jeez.
Is that Chung?
Yeah.
Chung. Yeah, that looks whose art style looks like in the promo, and I love his art. So
I can get down with that.
Well, bring it. Let's see it.
All right. Next topic is the Fantastic Four trailer.
These are the worst segues ever.
Speaking of Marvel, we'll talk about Fantastic Four. And hey, what do you know? They have a trailer for a movie coming out from a studio other than Marvel Studios. Yes, Fox and Sony will refuse to let those rights ever revert back to Marvel. I'm honestly, truly okay with X-Men never going back to Marvel Studios. Spider-Man...
I think we need Spider-Man back.
I'd like to live in a world where I like Spider-Man again, so I'll agree with that.
Oh,
you haven't been reading boy, howdy, do I want Fantastic Four to go back to Marvel Studios. And this, yeah, we'll see what happens here.
This is terrible to say, but I really hope they get Fantastic Four back in Stan Lee's lifetime, because, I don't know, I just think...
It's got, 30, 40 good years left to him?
Oh, I would say, at least, yeah, but I think that the Fantastic Four movie that Marvel would make is the Fantastic Four movie that would make Stan Lee happy. Not to say that I'm sure he loves, everything they've done. And the trailer does look good. I like how bulky they made the thing, and I didn't have a problem with Michael B. Jordan. I love him in Chronicle. I don't know what else he's in, but...
That's a good question, since, that's some of people's concern is that the director for Fantastic Four is the director of Chronicle, is the director of anything else that we know?
I really liked Chronicle, though.
I know, I liked Chronicle, too. There are gaps in his resume in terms of what he can handle, and they're handing him the first family of Marvel.
Yeah.
So...
Well, in the nature of the intent behind this podcast, it might be important to note that we want to draw attention to the positives. I think it can be overwhelming to dwell on some of the misdirection that we've seen in the movies. It's problematic that they're not consistent with the comics, but this does bring in more people into the industry who might potentially go pick up the comic and want to read it.
I think a lot of people were put off by the fact that, I mean, we're just now getting a trailer and the movie comes out
in August.
Right. So it felt like they were holding a lot of stuff back. And
conversely, Marvel's ending Fantastic Four, which you can go into all the theories about why that is. They don't want to support it. They want the rights back. They don't want to create any new characters that would automatically wind up in Fox's pocket. There's all that to it. But at the end of the day, it is a new Fantastic Four trailer, or it's a new Fantastic Four movie, and hopefully it'll be good. I liked the original Fantastic Four films, with the exception of the character of Doctor Doom, but I don't see how anyone could ever make me personally like Doctor Doom, so I think he was great in the 60s. Nowadays,
Jason Aaron did Doctor Doom really well in the Hulk series that he wrote. So,
he did, except his take on Doctor Doom reinforced my the thing. If I ever got a chance to write for Marvel, I had this thing about Doctor Doom I would introduce, and Jason Aaron's run did nothing but reinforce what I would do, and that is to say that Doctor Doom died years ago in the comics. Sometime before Civil War, he was dead, and every Doctor Doom we've ever seen since then is a Doombot that thinks it's Doctor Doom.
Right. Well, regardless, the trailer doesn't look nearly as bad as I think a lot of people might have thought it would look. I would have liked to seen more superhero stuff, but it's just a trailer, so obviously they're probably trying to keep the best stuff for the movie. That's cool. I get that. But yeah, it was. I was happy with the trailer.
I think that one thing I would note is that if I were not a fan of comics and understood who those characters were, I could just assume that was just a sci-fi movie about some scientists.
Oh yeah. The trailer looks like the Interstellar trailer.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's very deliberate.
We're not seeing the superhero element from that trailer that we get from most other.
We're seeing the science element,
right?
Which is fine.
Which, yeah, that's true. Is Fantastic Four is a science comic before it's a superhero comic. So, pseudoscience, because we're going into the negative zone with a guy who can burst into flames and another guy who can stretch out. But hey, science.
Hey, did you guys know that Michael B. Jordan did the voice of Cyborg in the Justice League Flashpoint Paradox movie, the animated one?
Yes, I did, because you just told me.
Speaking of DC...
Speaking of DC, how about the new 52 and the fact that they're dropping that moniker? Now, we were talking about this quite a bit before the podcast. We're trying to decide if this is just taking the words New 52 off of the title, the front of the books, or if this is really a matter of another soft reboot, full-on reboot.
Are we talking about Convergence?
Convergence, yes.
Well, Snyder just tweeted, the guy who writes Batman, Snyder, he tweeted that his storyline is still going, and a lot of storylines are still going, and he jokingly said that they're just dropping it because the new 49 didn't sound as catchy, because there's only apparently 49 new titles. I have to admit that DC is kind of a blind spot for me, but I have been reading Batman, which I like. So
I'm going to try to walk our cynicism line here. I loved me some late 90s DC. I liked how DC was a time where they said, our characters are 40 years old. We've been taking them on. Let's move to a new generation. Batman and Superman can stick around, but here's a new Green Arrow, here's a new Green Lantern, here's a new Flash. And I thought it was really good. I loved the stories that came about from it. And then we got into the 21st century, and Jeff Johns said, no, we need all the guys from the 60s back. So there's been a little bit of more recent DC seems to always be a step back, trying to maintain the status quo instead of moving forward. So I want to like me some DC, but at the moment I feel like I'm in a holding pattern, waiting to like them fully again.
Well, a couple things about DC. First of all, they just introduced a new power that Superman has. Did you hear about that?
Yeah. What is the power? What does he do?
I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but it looks like some kind of a holocaust where he unleashes energy in every direction, like almost like a bomb.
Right. And
it must be, all the energy that he has harnessed from the sun. He's just unleashing in the surrounding area.
It's Death Blossom.
Death Blossom. That's fun. next thing I'd like to point out with DC is they've been doing an excellent job with the TV shows.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
that is-
really killed.
That is true. In fact, let's talk about some current news. The gentleman who plays Diggle on Arrow said yesterday he is in serious conversations for his character to be the conduit that they introduce Green Lantern into their continuity, where they wouldn't have John Stewart, they would have John Diggle become Green Lantern. And I am absolutely okay with that, so long as they don't create some story arc backstory where suddenly we find out his last name is Stewart instead of Diggle. I'm like, by all means, have him occupy the role, have John Diggle become Green Lantern. I am okay with that.
Yeah, I think that would be an excellent thing for them to segue into. One thing I'd have to give DC credit for is that the superhero element is really coming out in their TV shows. We're just not getting that from Marvel.
Yeah.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is lacking that. Deathlock was an awesome character in the first season, but as far as superheroes go, we're not getting much from Marvel right now.
Well, then let's use that as the transition point to talk about the Netflix Marvel series, because the Daredevil trailer came out this week as well.
Yeah,
I love
Netflix.
I think that's, I'm going to say it right now, my biggest handicap.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Is I don't like Daredevil. The character of Daredevil has never done anything for me. However, that being said, so Eric can calm down here, is that I am completely open for the new Netflix Daredevil series. I am completely ready for this series to convince me that Daredevil is awesome. That being said, I'm a little more excited for the Alias series, aka Jessica Jones. I'm liking everything I'm seeing for that. I'm liking who they've cast for Jessica Jones. I'm super liking who they've cast for the Purple Man with David Tennant.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
Moderately even sounds too strong. Disappointed that we're getting Hellcat instead of Miss Marvel for the best friend character in this series, because that would have been a great way to introduce Carol Danvers. But
they probably haven't cast her yet. So.
Yeah, we know Carol Danvers is coming, so we're moving towards that. We got Luke Cage and Iron Fist still to go.
Hopefully everything works out. I mean, from the trailer, it seemed very isolated from the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I don't know if that's a bad thing or not, but I don't know. That's what I took away from it. I mean, I don't expect Chris Evans to make cameos in every Marvel cinematic thing, but I don't know.
Well, you've made the argument previously that you wish that Rhodey would show up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's honestly the Marvel Cinematic Universe character that's most noticeably absent from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If Don Cheadle felt like doing an episode, or Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner, those would help. But
I think they've said that so many, Jeremy Renner at least I know has said he would totally do an episode.
If Samuel L. Jackson can somehow either A, be afforded for 2 episodes, or B, cut his own salary for 2 episodes, I feel like these guys, there could be a way to do it.
Yeah.
My one issue coming up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is, from what we know about Age of Ultron, is that Tony Stark's going to create this army of automaton peacekeepers, kind of like they did in Ultimates too.
Right.
I'm really hoping that we get some mention of those in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. leading up to May, and that they don't suddenly just boom, they're there in Avengers, and then boom, we're dealing with the fallout in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right. Tim, do you have any of the trades for Ultimates?
I don't believe so.
That'd be a great primer for people. Ultimates, especially Volume 2.
Volume 2, it's got its...
From what I've seen of the trailer, it looks like it's Ultimates Volume 2.
That's true, yeah. It looks like it's Ultimates Volume 2, which that trailer had... It was easier for certain people to conceive human life than it was for an issue of Ultimates 2 to hit the stands at the time, but
right.
Definitely a story arc that they seem to be taking their cues from.
Tim, do you have any questions, comments, concerns, feelings, emotions?
No.
Desires?
Yeah. No, I think that, for a first podcast, this went fairly smoothly.
Definitely. I hope we get to do this more often. Like we said before, this is our first try, so not a lot of structure, kind of flying by the seat of our pants, but next week I think or whenever we get a chance to do this, all 3 of us are very busy adults with lives and jobs and Tim and I's case, businesses to run. So so it's hard for us to get together, but I would like to do it more often. I hope Tim and you guys had fun.
I did indeed.
I did. I'm probably going to go home immediately and start taking notes for the next time we get to do this because I want to do it as much as possible. But
all right, well, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Signing off.